morning, Highmark Church. It's exciting to be with you today on the first official Sunday going into the Christmas season. Anybody excited for Christmas? Come on. Just a few more weeks away, so get as holly jolly as you want, right? Blast Mariah Carey, get it real loud, and spread your Christmas cheer by singing loud for all to hear. I'm excited for the season that we're stepping into at Highmark Church, and like Pastor Don mentioned, my name is Jordan. I'm the Next Steps pastor here at Highmark, and I'm honored that he let me kind of borrow the mic today and preach as we continue to go into our series, All In. And this, we've done an incredible job teaching our church through this season as we navigate what it looks like to go from portable to permanent and go all in with taking steps of faith as a church. I've actually been kind of excited about this service in particular this week because I know you guys are the rowdy ones. Like 9:15, they're like 9:45, they don't get as loud, but I know you guys are a little bit rowdy. The 11 o'clock knows anybody know what I'm feeling? Come on, there it is. That's what I was waiting for. Come on, somebody. It's going to be a great time this morning. I have a question for you as we kick today off. Has anybody ever close to you, or maybe you thought was close to you, ever done something so out of character, so out of the blue that it made you ask the question, who even are you? Right? Anybody ever done something so shocking, so appalling that it made you question if you even knew who they were anymore? About 3 years ago, June 4th, 2017, I can remember the exact day. I was in an airport with my then wife. We had gotten married 10 hours earlier. We were running through the St. Louis International Airport trying to catch our flight. It's 5 in the morning. We're trying to catch our flight to our honeymoon. We're pulling up to the security. We're dumping our backpack. She dumps her purse, and we're about to walk through the metal detector of TSA to go on our honeymoon. When all of a sudden she says, hold on, and runs back to her purse. So in my head, I'm thinking, okay, maybe she left her phone in her pocket or some change or something. I don't know what she had, but I remember her going up to her purse, and instead of taking something out of her pocket and putting it into her purse, she takes something out of her purse. And it was in that moment that I realized I had no idea who this woman I married was. Because in the middle of St. Louis International Airport, as we're about to board an international flight, we're about to go through security, like TSA, big men, big guns, right? My wife reaches into her purse and pulls out a 4-inch switchblade knife. I had no idea she ever carried a knife on her. Oh, like you file your nails with, no, this is like, I'm gonna cut you knife, right? This is one of those things where it's like, she can carve your Thanksgiving turkey with her knife. And I'm in my head, I'm so shocked of what I'm seeing play out before my very eyes. I mean, once the shock kind of wore off for me, I start to kind of think in my head, like, was she planning on using this on me? Like, was there some time where in that 10 hours where she started to have second thoughts where she was like, you know what, I could carve him up a little bit, leave him in St. Louis, pop on a plane, and nobody would ever hear from me again. Because I didn't know what this woman was capable of. She carried a knife with her 3 years and didn't mention it to me at all. She could be a murderer for all I know. So June 4th, 2017 is the moment I realized that marriage wasn't something that would ever be completed. It wasn't a moment that would just happen. Because I thought we were at the peak of the peak, right? I thought that our marriage was the culmination of our entire relationship. It was all smooth sailing from there. I realized in that moment that marriage wasn't a moment. It was a process. Like it was something that would never be complete, but it would be something that is always in progress. It's something that you always have to work at day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. I call this the progress principle. It's something you just have to get daily better at. And while I believe that this progress principle is helpful in our relationships, I believe it's crucial for our lives of faith and taking steps of faith. Because if we don't understand that our journey of faith is a day-by-day thing, I think we get a lie that creeps into our heads every time we would go to take a step of faith. And this lie is the biggest thing that's holding you back from stepping into all that God has for you. And I want to show you what that lie is. That lie is this. Taking steps of faith is for faithful people. Right? You might look at that and be a little confused because that looks right, but I'm telling you, taking steps of faith is for faithful people is a lie that creeps into our heads. Like, I don't know about you, maybe I'm the weird one here, and you are perfectly normal. Does anybody have an ideal version of themselves, right, that they somehow think that I can finally attain to, right? It's the version of yourself that wakes up every morning at 5 a.m., right?
It's a person that like will get up and go work out for a couple hours every day, or skip the Oreos for breakfast, or like go and not binge shop on Target and Amazon, right? Anybody have that ideal version of themselves that somehow lives out in some unknown world, right? Okay, maybe I'm the only one. Maybe I'm the weird one. So I believe we do the same thing in our life of faith. I believe that we create this ideal picture in our head that somehow once we iron everything out, like once we're good to go, once we don't have any more junk in our lives, once we smooth our schedules and everything out, then we'll take a step of faith, right? It's once I get everything else figured out, then I'll do that. And the big secret is that you'll never get there. You never can iron enough stuff out in your life to take a step of faith, because I believe that taking steps of faith has to be a daily thing, and it has to be not just for faithful people, but it's for here, it's for us, and it's for now. And so the progress principle that we have when it relates to our life of faith is this. Faith steps aren't for faithful people, they form faithful people. You see the difference there? Like, it's not for the messy, problematic, like, still has junk in their lives version of you. It's not for some future version of yourself. It's for now. Faithful steps aren't for faithful people. They form them. It builds them. As they continue to grow, it's a day-by-day thing. It's the progress principle. And today, what I want to look at is the story of a man who took faith steps before he was ever a faithful person. There's a man in Scripture in Luke chapter 19 named Zacchaeus. And Zacchaeus was a guy who wasn't exactly the perfect person. In fact, he was actually considered an outsider to the life of faith. Zacchaeus grew up in the Jewish line, so he would have been a Jew by birth. But as he grew up, he chose a profession that wasn't well liked. It's a tax collector. And tax collectors don't have a good rap throughout history, but when you couple it with the fact that Zacchaeus would actually take more money from people than he should have to line his own pockets, and he would actually do it on behalf of the Roman government, his Jewish brothers and sisters didn't really like that too much. So Zacchaeus wouldn't have just been considered outside of the faith. He would have actually probably been considered against the faith. So how would Jesus respond to a man that would be considered faithless by everybody else? How would he respond to somebody who wanted to interact with him but really might not have had a faithful bone in his body? Let's look at Luke chapter 19 as we walk through how Jesus interacts with this man Zacchaeus. It says, Jesus entered Jericho and made his way through the town. There was a man there named Zacchaeus. He was the chief tax collector in the region, had become very rich. He tried to get a look at Jesus, but he was too short to see over the crowd. So he ran ahead, and he climbed a sycamore fig tree beside the road, for Jesus was going to pass that way. When Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. Zacchaeus, he said, quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today. Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house in great excitement and joy. But the people were displeased. He's gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner, they grumbled. Meanwhile, Zacchaeus stood before the Lord and said, I will give half my wealth to the poor, Lord. And if I have cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much. Jesus responded, salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost. How does Zacchaeus go from outsider to the life of faith to a man who Jesus calls a true son of Abraham? I mean, I don't think you get any more outsider than chief tax collector for Rome, right? You don't get any more outside than that. And you don't get any more inside than a true son of Abraham. So why the two polarizing things? How does Zacchaeus go from one to the other in the eyes of Jesus? I believe it's through the progress principle. He took steps of faith before he was ever a faithful person, because steps of faith aren't for faithful people, they form faithful people. And so I believe Zacchaeus had 2 things, just 2 things that you and I both need in our daily, everyday lives as we look to take daily steps of faith, going for all that God has in store for us. So 2 things. You ready? Everybody ready? It's the 11 o'clock. You're rowdy. I get it. Let's go. The first thing that Zacchaeus had that we need in our life is a passion worth pursuing. A passion worth pursuing. It says that Zacchaeus wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he couldn't see over the crowd.
So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore fig tree to see him, since Jesus was coming that way. Now, the older I get in my life, the more I realize you have to be pretty passionate about something to run and or climb anything, right? Am I right? Am I alone here? Like, when you were a kid, you used to run and climb over everything. But, I mean, the more years you get on you, the more you want to save your energy for what actually matters in life, right? So I'm only running to, like, get seconds before everybody else at Thanksgiving, right? I'm only climbing to climb over people to get to dessert first. I'm not running and climbing for stuff that doesn't matter. I'm only doing it for the things that truly matter in life. So why would Zacchaeus, a man of like influence, means, wealth, run ahead of the crowd, climb a tree just to get a better view of Jesus? I believe Zacchaeus had a passion that was worth pursuing. He had something to chase after that was deep in his soul. You see, I think Zacchaeus has spent his entire life chasing after wealth and means and accolades, and he had gotten it all. He had gotten everything he had probably ever wanted, but still was missing one thing. And I believe he heard stories of Jesus and how people that encountered Jesus left those encounters never the same. And I believe this stirred a little bit of passion inside Zacchaeus that said, I don't care what I look like. I don't care if I have to run, if I have to climb, if I have to crawl. I want to see this man because I have a passion in me for it. He had a passion worth pursuing, and I think it makes me ask the question of myself. It should make you ask the question of yourself. Am I passionate about pursuing Jesus? Like, is it something that stirs me up inside to where I have to follow what God has in store for me? Or is it something I can take or leave, right? Is it something that we prioritize in our life? Is Jesus something that you prioritize in your schedule? Because all of us prioritize what we're passionate about. Is it something that's a priority in your bank account? Is it something that you have as something that you're passionate about? Because I can tell you what you're passionate about based on what you prioritize and what's in your bank. Trust me, I know. My wife is very passionate about Target. Have a passion worth pursuing. And I believe that today, as we sit and we look to what God has in store for us, I believe we don't have to have it all together. I don't think you have to obtain some ideal version of yourself. I believe we don't need to be perfect. I think we need to have some passion. So I believe I want to cry out to God, God, give me a passion for the things that you're passionate about, right? Give me a passion for your church. Give me a passion for your people. Give me a passion for your word. Give me a passion to love and to serve. Give me some inkling of passion for what you're passionate about. Because I think we complicate things. I think we get things too complicated. We have to be perfect, but God's not looking for the perfect. He's looking for somebody who has a little bit of passion in them. And if you at all feel stuck in your spiritual growth, wherever it's at, wherever you're at in your life, whether you're not a Christian yet or you've been a Christian for a while and you just feel a little bit stuck, I believe that this is the key for experiencing some momentum and some growth in your spiritual life. You don't need to obtain something. You don't need to get stuff together. I think you need some passion. How do I know this? Because passion fuels progress. Passion is the fuel of progress. I don't think you need a little bit more perfection in your life. I think you need a little bit more passion. Here's how I know that. Did anybody grow up with a hobby? Like you played sports, right? Or maybe an instrument, had a collection. I don't know what you grew up doing, but you had something that you were passionate about growing up. It's kind of stuck with you through your life. I picked up competitive basketball in the 4th grade. It's as competitive as church league 4th grade basketball can get. And I remember I wasn't very good at basketball in the 4th grade. I don't think anybody really is. But I remember I had a good coach. His name was Coach Crone. And Coach Crone did an incredible job at inspiring a love for basketball. And because he inspired a love in me for basketball, what it did was it drove me to go to practice every day. Like I wanted to practice, I wanted to play ball every day. And because I practiced every day, the more skillful I got. And I actually look back over the 8 years I spent of my life playing competitive basketball, and I can trace every bit of skill and ability and accolade all the way back to the 4th grade. passion that was lit inside of me in the 4th grade that carried me all the way through middle school and high school. Passion will fuel growth in your life. So when we look to God and we say, God, would you fix this in me? Would you fix me and make me better so that I can take steps of faith? I don't think he's looking for that. I just don't. I think what he wants you to do is pray for a little bit more passion. I think once you get passion in your life, I believe our God is a good God. And I believe he is the best coach that you could ever have. And I believe he doesn't want perfection out of you, because perfection actually will kill any sense of progress in your life. He wants a little bit of passion in you because he knows passion will spark growth in your life, because passion fuels the progress of your life. So Zacchaeus had a little passion, and Jesus can work with passion. But Zacchaeus had another thing. It's the second thing that we need in our lives. It's a generous response. Zacchaeus had a generous response to Jesus. It says Jesus said, Zacchaeus, quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today. So Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus into his house in great excitement and joy. But the people were displeased. He has gone to be the guest of a notorious sinner, they grumbled. I want you to note the two disparities of the reactions of Zacchaeus and the crowd, right? Zacchaeus was excited. He was joyful. He was responding to the invitation that Jesus had with excitement. But the crowd reacted in displeasure and grumbling. It's two completely different reactions, and Jesus comments on 0 of them. It's interesting to note that he doesn't mention anything about Zacchaeus' excitement. He doesn't mention anything about the crowd's displeasure, because I don't think Jesus is concerned with our reactions. I just don't. I don't think it's because they don't matter. I think it's because they don't matter to what Jesus wants to do in the moment. And so for us, when we go to take a faith step, when God puts something in our lives that he wants us to be obedient in, there's a lot of reactions that swell up inside of us, right? Like there's insecurity, there's doubt, there's worry. What if I don't have enough? What if I'm not enough? What if I end up failing? There's a lot of reactions that come up inside of us. But Jesus isn't concerned with our reactions. I believe Jesus is concerned about our response. Because there is a difference between reacting and responding. You know, you can react with emotions, but emotions ebb and flow. They come and they go. But when you respond to something, you respond to something with action. There's a decision made between a reaction and a response. So what I like to imagine in my mind, I like to kind of break down a faith step, like the anatomy of a faith step. God asks you to be obedient in something, and we get hit with the reaction. I don't know if I can do that. I think that's too much for me. I can't step out in faith like that. I can't get there, God. But that's just a reaction. And Jesus isn't concerned with our reactions. He's way more concerned about our response. So we have a gap between how we react and how we respond. And in the middle of that gap is what's called faith. It's what allows us to see the insecurity and the doubt for being real and what it is, but it's allowing it to look in the face and say, no, I see the insecurity, I see the worry, I see the doubt, but I choose to respond in faith. There's something different between a reaction and a response. We have to take a faith step in the middle of it. And Zacchaeus responds with incredible generosity. Like, it says that he gives away half his wealth and will pay back 4 times as much to the people that he took from. How in the world can a man so known for his greed, so known for what he took from people, suddenly flip a switch 180 and go to giving away half of what he's ever done, and on top of that, paying back 4 times the amount he stole? How can you go from being so greedy to so generous? It's because he took steps of faith, not because he was a faithful person, but because those steps of faith formed the faithful person that Zacchaeus became. And so what that makes me do is question, how should I respond to Jesus? I believe the only way we can respond to Jesus is a generous response. Romans 5, verse 8 says, "Why? But God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us." I can be generous in my response because Jesus was generous first. How can I respond to this fact with anything but generosity? How can I not respond by being generous with my life? How can I not respond with being generous with my finances? How can I not respond with being generous with my future when I know that there is a God that loved me so much that he sent his one and only son to die for me? How can I not be generous? It's the only response we can possibly give when we're confronted with the fact of who Jesus is and what he's done for us. For us as a church, I believe that we need to get a little bit of passion in us for the things that God's passionate about. And I believe that we as a church need to have a generous response when God calls us into whatever he wants us to do. There's only one way to respond to him, and that's with our yes, being as generous as we can. We have to remember that faith steps aren't for the faithful. They form faithful people. It's a day-by-day grind. It's a day-by-day saying, I trust you, God. I trust you in my marriage. I trust you with my kids. I trust you with my future. I trust you in my finances. Whatever it is, I trust you day by day, week by week. I'm a generous response. I say yes with my life, and I follow all that you have for me. Would you bow your head?